Hey guys, welcome back to Gatsu Gaming. I have a rather light-hearted video for you here today. I've been running around on my Feral Druid. Well, really, it's a balanced Druid slash Resto Druid on live. But for today's purposes, this character's feral, as you can see by the wonderful red kitty skin. So I decided I was going to check out Feral because one of my friends, Kevo, he decided he was going to hit me up today and say, "Where's my Feral video?" And I realized that I hadn't done one yet. So let's go ahead and get into that. So Feral saw quite a few changes, talent-wise, actually, from what I understand. I'm not a Feral main by any means, but I remember a couple of these abilities not being here, and then again, I look at this again, I'm not sure. So let's just take a look at what's here, and we'll just try to be as objective as possible when we look at them. So starting things off here in our first row, we have Blood Scent. Your melee abilities in cat form have a 10% increased crit chance on targets with a bleed effect. So this gives you 10% free crit, probably really good early on. Gives you that little bit of extra crit so you can get more damage, more procs, etc, etc. Overall, pretty good, nice little passive thing. If you're not going to have ads in a fight, probably the way to go. Predator, however, if you're going to have reliable ads, the cooldown on Tiger's Fury resets when a target dies with one of your bleed effects active, and Tiger's Fury lasts an additional 4 seconds. Now, for those of you who don't know, Tiger's Fury instantly gives you 50 energy, and increases the damage of all your attacks by 15% for their full duration. So dot snapshotting is apparently alive and well, contrary to what I have been told. So there is a little bit of that there left. However, with Tiger's Fury and Predator, which makes the Tiger's Fury even better, you get a lot more uses out of it, and especially in Mythic Plus, that's definitely going to be super useful, as well as any raid encounter where, you know, you have ads reliably. Lunar Inspiration, Moonfire is now usable in cat form, generates a combo point and deals damage based on attack power, but it also costs 30 energy. If you really need that extra Dawn, if you're going to have prolonged periods of time where, you know, Moonfire is going to benefit you so that you can actually hit things, you know, way out of your range, or I really can't think of too many reasons to take this most of the time, but I'm sure it has its niche uses. So our level 30 row, this is the same across all the Druid specs. We have Tiger Dash, activates cat form, and increases movement speed by 200%, reducing gradually over 5 seconds. This replaces your dash, which to me just doesn't feel right. I feel like this should be a completely separate ability, especially since you are a cat. But hey, what can I say? I'm not the game devs. Renewal instantly heals you for 30% of your maximum health, usable in all shapeshift forms. Awesome, reliable if you know you're gonna need it. If you can't make use of Tiger Dash for whatever reason, or if Wild Charge isn't what you fancy, Renewal's also a very good choice for whenever you're progressing through things, soloing, etc. Wild Charge, of course, gives you that cat stealth, sort of like a shadow step, almost. In cat form, you leap behind the enemy and you daze them for 3 seconds. When you're non-shape-shifted, you fly towards whoever you're targeting ally-wise. In bear form, it is a charge with a stun, which immobilizes them for 4 seconds. In travel form, you'll just kind of jump ahead 20 yards, and in aquatic form, you actually move 150% faster for 5 seconds. This is super, super useful whenever you are in places where there's a lot of water, i.e., oh my goodness, I was just there. Shrine of the Storm, which is the dungeon I just ran. Super helpful in there just to get through the water a little bit quicker. Not that it really matters unless your entire group's druids. So the 45 row here, we just have our standard affinities. We have Balance Affinity, which increases your range by 3 yards. It can be very useful, especially if things are going to be mildly spread out. And gives you access to Moonkin forms, so if you're going to be in a fight where, you know, you have to be out of melee range quite often, this could give you the little bit of edge you need. Unfortunately, I think at that point you should probably just be playing Boomkin, but, you know, never a bad idea to have the option, I suppose. Guardian Affinity gives you 6% reduced damage taken. You get Iron Fur and Frenzied Regen there, helps you survive whenever you're in one of those tight spots. Very useful in PvP for sure, and one of my go-tos for whenever I'm doing Mythic Plus, just so I don't randomly keel over dead. Resto Affinity here still heals you for 3% of your max health every 5 seconds. If you're at full health, it will heal someone else instead. With the changes they made to Resto, getting rid of Healing Touch, we actually only get Rejuve, Swift Mend, and now Wild Growth with this. Makes it actually significantly stronger as an extra little boost there to your group healing. Not a horrible option but most of the time, Guardian Affinity will probably just be better for you. But hey, you never know. Maybe you will need that extra Swiftmen just to keep yourself alive in a real high damage scenario. Level 60 row here, we've got Mighty Bash. 5-second stun on a 50-second cooldown. You can use it in any form you want. This is my standard pick most of the time. If there's a Sanguine week, of course, you're always going to take Typhoon, which you boop the target 15 yards in front of you with a big old Typhoon wave. Knocks them back and dazes them, also usable in every shapeshift form. And the middle one here is Mass Entanglement. Super niche, not always what you actually want. Roots the target and all enemies within 15 yards in place for 30 seconds. Damage may interrupt the effect. It's usable in all shapeshift forms. This is just literally Mass Entangling Roots. Couple, open spots there with Coven in Antorus, where this was super useful, but outside of that, it's really not the greatest thing to have. Most of the time, you'll probably find that Mighty Bash or Typhoon will cover you significantly better than Mass Entanglement. Now, our 75 row saw a little bit of a change here, I believe. I think they swapped a couple talents here. They just kind of moved from one row to the other. So we have Soul of the Forest here. Your finishing moves grant 5 energy per combo point spent and deal 5% increased damage. This one here is what I use on live most of the time, mainly because I really don't care for Incarnation. Incarnation is incredibly strong, mind you, but I just like Soul of the Forest for the energy because my cat on live is really terrible. Jagged Wounds, your Rip, Rake, and Thrash abilities deal their full damage 20% faster. I'm not sure if this is technically 20% haste for your dots, but it sure feels like it when you have it on in a dungeon. And with everything scaling with haste now, this one could overtake the other ones depending on how high of a haste level you're able to get to. Incarnation still gives you that big 3-minute cooldown. It replaces your Berserk. It gives you... allows you the use of Prowl once while in combat, so you essentially get a Vanish. Causes Shred and Rake to deal damage as if Stealth were active. Reduces the cost of all your cat form abilities by 40% and increases your maximum energy by 50%. Lasts for a full 30 seconds, and you can shift in and out of the form if you need to, although ideally, you will never have to do that. And pray you don't, because man, it's such a strong cooldown. So our 90 row here, we've got Sabretooth. Ferocious Bite deals 20% increased damage, and always refreshes the duration of Rip. Pretty awesome if you're going to be on just a pure single target fight, although I believe most of the time, if you have a pure single target fight, you're actually better off taking Savage Roar. It's a finishing move that increases damage by 15% while in cat form, lasts longer per combo point spent. At 5 combo points, it's 36 seconds of 15% increased damage. With current haste levels and crit levels and everything else, Savage Roar probably only has a place if you like a very tight rotation with very little room for error. Otherwise, you would probably be better off taking Sabretooth. Especially if you're a new player, Sabretooth would probably be your better go-to in a pure single-target situation. Anytime there's any way that you can AoE, Brutal Slash is the absolute best talent here. This thing hits like a truck. It replaces your Swipe, has a 7-second recharge with my haste level, and has a maximum of 3 charges, gives you a combo point, so it's always a good thing to have there. Get your dots out there quicker. Strikes all nearby enemies with a massive slash, inflicting, it says 1200 damage. It's been critting for me for very, very high numbers. I'm not sure if it's due to the level of gear that I have on this character, because it is from live copied over. But even so, I don't have tier or anything like that buffing it, and my legendaries are actually the Thrash Bracers and the Sefus right now. So nothing too crazy that would actually affect it all that much. The 100 row, we have Moment of Clarity. Moment of Clarity now triggers 50% more often and can accumulate up to 2 charges, and increases the damage of your next Shred, Thrash, or Brutal Slash, or Swipe if you don't have Brutal Slash talented, by 15%, and your max energy is increased by 30%. This is the one that I take almost all the time. I'm just a huge fan of Moment of Clarity. Those of you that have seen my Resto Druid videos in the past know that I love Moment of Clarity as Resto as well, and people tell me I'm crazy for that. But I really enjoy clear casting, what can I say? Blood Talons here, casting Regrowth or Entangling Roots, causes your next 2 melee abilities to deal 25% increased damage for their full duration. This, of course, buffs your big dots, your Rip, and your Rake. And of course can also buff your Thrash, because it is of course a melee ability, woohoo. Super useful if you can play that build. I'm not a huge fan of it because I hate having to hit regrowth. I'm not a fan of it. I know it's really strong. Again, I just prefer Moment of Clarity. The last thing here is actually a new talent. It's called Feral Frenzy. This is essentially Ashmane's Gift, the artifact ability that we lose when we get into the new expansion here. So Feral Frenzy, 25 energy, 45-second cooldown. Of course, you have to be in cat form to use it. Unleash a Furious Frenzy, clawing your target 5 times for 845 physical damage and an additional 7,259 bleed damage over 6 seconds. Now that bleed number is absolutely massive. Absolutely crazy, and it gives you a full 5 combo points. This talent is nutty good. Nutty good. Unfortunately, it does compete with Moment of Clarity and Blood Talons, and some people may not want to go with this one in particular. It's a slightly weaker Ashmane's Fury, I believe. But either way, incredibly strong talent. I expect to see a lot of people taking this one as their default from now on, just because of how strong it's going to be with what you get now in BFA. So the spellbook for Druid is, of course, absolutely massive. We got a lot to go over here, so I'm just going to jump right in. So we have Bear Form here. I still have that, of course, in every spec. Shapeshift into Bear Form. Get your 220% increased armor, get your extra stamina, and become a tank for a few seconds. Hopefully is all the longer you need to be in that for. Brutal Slash is a talent, otherwise this is Swipe. Cat Form. Swap into your cat form there. It increases your auto attack damage by 40% and your movement speed by 30%. Reduces your fall damage still, thank goodness. And of course you can, shift out of roots and things like that. I have Charm Woodland Creature here. I believe this is from a glyph because I copied my character over. So this is not here by default, I do not believe. However, it's great to befriend the little creatures as you're running around. Still have our dash here, 60% movement speed for 10 seconds on a 2-minute CD. It looks like we're going to retain Dreamwalk here, teleports you back to the Emerald Dreamway. This is going to be absolutely great because, of course, you can use Dreamwalk, go back to the Dreamway, and then pop it again and get back to where you were. Super useful, kind of like Teleport Moonglade, but better because you have more options. Entangling Roots here, get to snare somebody in place for 30 seconds, no cooldown on it. 1.2 second cast, 400 mana. Mana is kind of irrelevant as a cat, but it does have a mana cost, so you can't spam a ton of heals and then swap back over. Ferocious Bite is your standard combo point spender. It causes physical damage per combo point, consumes with 25 energy to increase damage by up to 100%. When used on targets below 25% health, Ferocious Bite will always refresh the duration of Rip on your target. So of course the talent Sabretooth would make that apply all the time, otherwise it's only under 25%, essentially the Feral Execute. So here we have Flap, this of course I believe is also a glyph. Growl, for whenever you're in bear form, so you can taunt for a few seconds and pray you don't die. Hibernate is back. Hibernate actually has no CD, which I didn't realize it did not have a CD, which is great. Forces the enemy target to sleep for up to 40 seconds. Any damage will awaken the target. You can only hibernate one enemy at a time. It only works on Beast and Dragonkin. Here is Incarnation, King of the Jungle. Otherwise, this is Berserk if you do not take that talent. Maim. Finishing move that causes physical damage and stuns the target. Damage and duration increase per combo point. This is a fairly low damage ability, but it does give you that big stun that you may need in a dungeon, or on that pesky ad that the tank for some reason hasn't picked up yet and is walloping your healer. So Mangle, bear form, just the standard, big hit from them, generates some rage for you. We'll go into this in more depth whenever we get to the Bear Druid guide. Well, overview, I should say. It's not really a guide when we get there. Mighty Bash, of course, is a talent. Moonfire, it's denoted as Lunar, because that is actually the spell type. Prowl, 6-second CD, drops you into stealth so you can sneak around as a cat. Sneak. Rake is your bread and butter standard dot that you have there, 35 energy. Rake the target for 617 bleed damage and an additional 3762 bleed damage over 15 seconds. while Stealth Rake will also stun the target for 4 seconds and deal 100% increased damage. So very important to open with this when you get the opportunity to. We still have our Battle Res. It now has an actual cast time to it again, so do keep that in mind whenever you're trying to Battle Res players in dungeons. Regrowth and Rejuve are here... Well, I'm sorry. Rejuve is here purely as... I have Restoration Affinity. Regrowth is baseline across all Druid specs because they removed Healing Touch. Remove Corruption. Get rid of Curse and Poison effects. Hooray, hooray. Druids are great at that. Revive is our standard resurrection spell. Rip is essentially our Rupture if you play Assassination Rogue. 1 to 5 combo points, 30 energy. Finishing move that causes a bleed. It causes bleed damage over 24 seconds. Damage increases per combo point. It stacks up really quick. You definitely want to only ever put this out there at 5 combo points. Whew, almost there. A little bit yet. So Shred. This is essentially Backstab if you're playing a Rogue. Shreds the target, causing 858 physical damage to the target, deals 20% extra damage against bleeding targets, while Stealth, it deals 50% increased damage and has double your crit chance. So if you do need a big crit, there's your opener. Skull Bash is your standard interrupt. Soothe will actually dispel all enrage effects on the target. This is back this expansion. Again, very glad to see it. There's quite a few enrages to get rid of, and we'll get a lot of use out of this button, so make sure it's a comfortable keybind. Stag form here, I believe this is also a glyph now, for whenever you are out in the world and you are in an area where you can fly, but you'd rather let someone ride around on your back and, you know, do flips and stuff on the ground. Stampeding Roar, 2-minute CD, lets loose a wild roar, increasing movement speed of all friendly players within 15 yards by 60% for 8 seconds. The raid-wide sprint, still here. Why is it still here? Oh god. Survival Instincts reduces all damage you take by 50% for 6 seconds. You have 2 charges of this. Granted, this is also not in Guardian Affinity, so you have this baseline. This is your, oh god, this is going to hurt a lot or I have to soak this mechanic ability, so swap to Bear form, pop that Instincts, and make sure you don't fall over. Be sure you land on your feet. That's what I should have said. Definitely. I'll edit this later. No, I won't. Swift Mend. This, of course, comes from Restoration Affinity. 1200 mana, instant heal for quite a bit. It's 7,192 listed on the tooltip right now. This changes, of course, depending on gear, and this crits a lot more often than it probably should. You know, probably because I've got like 50% crit, because I'm Feral Druid. Thrash makes everything around you bleed. Definitely great for whenever you're taking the Predator talent. Make sure you're popping your Tiger's Fury and maintaining some Thrashes. Tiger's Fury restores that 50 energy, increases the damage of all your attacks by 15% for their full duration and lasts 14 seconds. Resets with Predator when something dies. Be sure you take this. Be sure you take Predator and Tiger's Fury. It's super, super good, especially while you're leveling. Travel form, of course, just shifts you into your travel form. If you're in an area where you can fly, you become a bird. Anywhere else, you become a stag. Or a doe. Or maybe a cheetah, depending on which glyph you have. Treant form, this is again a glyph. I love Treant form. I love doing the twist. It's great. Wild Charge is a talent. Wild Growth! Oh my god, we're almost done! Last page, 4 pages! Wild Growth heals up to 6 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for about 3,000 over 7 seconds. Healing starts high and declines over the duration. This comes from Restoration Affinity. Very glad to see it here. That helps us out significantly more than you might realize in a lot of encounters right now. So we have our aquatic form that makes us swim much faster underwater and allow us to breathe underwater. Feline Swiftness just increases your movement speed by another 15%. Cat form is super quick. Feral Instinct reduces the chance that enemies have to detect you while you're in prowl. Flight form just lets you fly. Infected Wounds. Rake puts a 20% snare on anything you have it on. This is super useful when you need to kite. And also really, really great for your tank. Mastery, Razor Claws. Just increases the damage done by your cat form bleed abilities. So your mastery is 100% just your bleeds. In my case, I've got 50% mastery right now, so that's an extra 50% damage off the base, which is great. Omen of Clarity. Your auto attacks have a chance to give you a clear casting state, making your next Shred, Thrash, or Brutal Slash, or Swipe if you're not talented into Brutal Slash, costs no energy. The bread and butter of this spec, definitely have a way to track it. It is super, super good to know exactly when you have these so you don't overcap on them, especially if you're not taking Moment of Clarity. Predatory Swiftness, your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to make your next regrowth or entangling roots instant, free, and castable in all forms. This, of course, is how Blood Talons works. Again, not a huge fan of it because I really don't like using the GCD to put that on myself just to get a buff on those dots. I would honestly rather just have Moment of Clarity. I don't think I've said that enough this video. Primal Fury. When you critically strike with an attack that generates combo points, you gain an additional combo point. Your dots, though, can't trigger it. So this is how, whenever you go and you get a big swipe crit, swipe. Ugh. Yeah, that works. Swipe. Anything you do that can generate a combo point, kaboom. There you go. Extra combo points, more bites, more rips, more bleeds, more winning. And of course, Ysera's Gift is from a talent. Oh my god, that was a really long spellbook. So a little bit of background here, just because before I sign off, I just want to throw this out there. Feral Druid, again, is not my main. I very well could have said something that's completely incorrect, so if I goofed up, and I probably did, please let me know in the comments and tell me how terrible I am at Feral Druid. If you liked the video, though, throw me a like. If not, downvote it. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. It's your life. But thanks again for stopping in, and I'll see you next time.